An elderly black veteran, Walter Hayes, is denied a room at a luxury inn because he doesn't look like a guest. Humiliated and exhausted from traveling to attend his grandson's graduation, Walter sits alone in the parking lot, grappling with decades of indignities resurfacing in that moment. But when police sirens arrive later that night, it isn't for him. It's for the manager who turned him away. If this story moves you, please subscribe to join us in standing against injustice. Together we can ensure voices like Walter's are heard and respected. Let's start. Walter adjusted his worn uniform jacket, the metals pinned to it catching faint glimmers of light from the inn's glowing neon sign. He paused for a moment, straightening his shoulders despite the weariness in his bones. This trip wasn't just about him. It was for Marcus, for his grandson's graduation, a celebration of family and future. But as he stepped inside, the warmth he had hoped to find was absent. Instead, the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. The woman behind the desk looked up but didn't smile. Her gaze flicked over him quickly, his scuffed shoes, his weathered hands, and something shifted in her expression. "I'm sorry," she said, her tone clipped, dismissive. "We don't have any rooms available." Walter blinked, pulling out his phone. "But I made a reservation," he said calmly, showing her the confirmation email. She barely glanced at it. There must have been a mistake. Her voice carried an edge that cut deeper than her words. Walter stood there for a long moment, the weight of decades pressing down on him. Finally, he turned and walked back outside, his hands trembling. As they gripped the car door handle, each step felt heavier than the last, like the ground itself conspired against him. Back at the inn, Claire moved through the lobby with practiced ease, her polished demeanor hiding the unease gnawing at her. She told herself it wasn't personal, it was business. People like him didn't belong here. That's what she'd always believed, what others around her had reinforced. Still, when she saw another guest checking in moments later, doubt flickered briefly in her mind before she pushed it away. In his parked car, Walter called Marcus. The line crackled before his son's voice came through, sharp with frustration. "Dad, why are you even bringing this up? Just let it go." "I can't," Walter replied quietly, staring out into the rain beginning to fall. "It's not just this time, Marcus, it's every time." Marcus sighed, guilt creeping into his voice. "I know it's wrong, but think about us, about Grandma. Do we really need this kind of attention?" Walter didn't answer right away. Across the street, a shopkeeper watched silently, his camera trained on the inn. He zoomed in slightly as Claire turned Walter away, capturing every detail. Something about the exchange didn't sit right with him. He'd seen it happen before, too many times. As sirens pierced the evening calm, Sheriff Daniels strode into the inn, his presence commanding immediate attention. Claire stiffened, her composure faltering under his scrutiny. Whatever brought him here, it wasn't good news for her. Outside, Walter noticed the patrol car slowing near the building, its lights flashing briefly before disappearing. His stomach tightened. Something bigger was unfolding, and somehow he knew it involved him. Rain drummed steadily against the windshield as Walter sat in silence, torn between anger and resignation. Yet beneath it all lingered a spark, a quiet determination he couldn't ignore. Whatever happened next, he wouldn't stay silent. Not this time. Claire's fingers trembled as she watched Sheriff Daniels review the security footage. The screen showed her tampering with the safe, her movements clumsy and hurried. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, her voice cracking under the weight of scrutiny. But the sheriff's expression remained unreadable, his silence pressing down on her like a storm cloud. For the first time, Claire felt the cracks in her polished facade widening, exposing the desperation beneath. Later that evening, Walter sat across from the shopkeeper, his jaw tightening as he watched the footage play out on a small laptop screen. There it was, clear as day. Another guest checked in moments after Claire had turned him away. His hands clenched into fists, anger simmering just below the surface. "She lied," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. The shopkeeper nodded solemnly. "She always does. At home, Marcus paced back and forth, frustration boiling over. "Why couldn't you just let it go, Dad?" he demanded, his voice rising. Walter looked up, his eyes heavy with years of unspoken pain. "Because I'm tired of sliding," he said softly, his words carrying the weight of a lifetime. Marcus froze, caught off guard by the quiet resolve in his father's tone. It wasn't anger, it was something deeper, something unshakable. Through whispered conversations with locals, Walter began piecing together a pattern. One man spoke of being told rooms were booked, despite seeing others check in. Another recounted how Claire would use phrases like, "not a good fit." Each story added another brick to the wall of evidence against her. Walter felt a fire ignite within him, a determination to expose the truth no matter the cost. The shopkeeper handed Walter a USB drive, his expression grim but resolute. "This is everything," he said. On the screen, the footage showed Claire dismissing Walter, without hesitation. "It proves she singled you out," the shopkeeper urged. Walter hesitated for a moment, then nodded. For the first time, he saw a path forward, not just for himself, but for everyone who had been denied justice. Lisa's call came unexpectedly, her voice steady and professional. "Mr. Hayes, your story needs to be heard," he said. Walter listened quietly, weighing the risks. When Lisa revealed Claire's history of corruption, he felt a shift inside him. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's do this." Social media exploded overnight. Some defended Walter, calling for accountability. Others sided with Claire, accusing him of stirring up trouble. Messages flooded Walter's inbox, hate mail, threats, insults. He sat alone, staring at the screen, questioning whether speaking up had been worth it. Yet amidst the chaos, a few messages stood out. Strangers thanking him for standing up, for giving them hope. The shopkeeper returned with more revelations. "She brags about finding loopholes," he explained, denying service without consequences. Then came the bombshell. Claire owed money to dangerous people, explaining her frantic attempts to cover her tracks. Walter absorbed the information, his resolve hardening further. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about dismantling system built on lies. During the live interview, Lisa played the damning footage. Gasps rippled through the audience as they watched Claire turn Walter away while welcoming another guest. Phones buzzed furiously as viewers reacted, outrage building. Like a tidal wave, calls for justice poured in, forcing authorities to act. Protesters gathered outside the inn, their chants echoing through the streets. Under mounting pressure, law enforcement launched a formal investigation. Reporters swarmed the scene, cameras flashing as protesters held signs demanding accountability. Walter stood nearby, watching silently. Despite the noise and chaos, he felt a strange sense of calm. The tide was turning. Justice might finally be within reach. Walter sat in the dim glow of his phone screen, the harsh words from countless messages blurring together. Hate mail flooded his inbox. Insults, threats, accusations. Marcus stood in the doorway, his voice trembling with worry. "Dad, this is getting out of control," he said, running a hand through his hair. Walter didn't respond right away. He simply stared at the screen, his silence heavier than any words could be. Finally he spoke, his voice low but steady. "They can say what they want. I'm not backing down." At the station, Sheriff Daniels slammed a folder onto the table in front of Claire. Inside were bank records and security footage proving her embezzlement. Her face paled as she stammered, "This isn't fair." Then, desperation took over. "He's lying. Walter's making this up to ruin me." Tears streamed down her face, but her performance felt hollow, even to herself. The sheriff leaned back in his chair, unimpressed. "Save it," he said coldly. For the first time, Claire's polished mask slipped entirely, revealing the fear beneath. On television, Claire appeared composed but fragile, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "I'm being targeted because of canceled culture," she sobbed, her voice quivering for effect. Some viewers bought it, questioning whether Walter had exaggerated his story. Social media buzzed with debate, and for a moment, It seemed like public opinion might turn against him. Walter watched silently from his couch, his jaw tightening. He knew the truth, but would anyone else believe it? Just as hope began to fade, an old colleague of Walter's stepped forward. Dressed in his military uniform, the man addressed reporters with authority. Claire Dawson was involved with white supremacist groups in college, he revealed, holding up documents as proof. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Overnight, sympathy for Claire evaporated. Her attempts to portray herself as a victim crumbled under the weight of her own history. Sitting on his porch, Walter gazed out at the horizon, the evening sky painted in shades of orange and pink. The backlash weighed heavily on him, but he refused to let it break him. He thought of Evelyn, her laughter echoing in his memory. "You'd be proud," he whispered to the empty air. Though the fight had been exhausting, he knew he'd done the right thing, and that gave him strength. The tide turned swiftly. As news of Claire's ties to hate groups spread, protesters outside the inn chanted Walter's name. Signs reading, "Justice for Walter," filled the streets. Strangers reached out with messages of support, thanking him for standing up when so many stayed silent. Walter watched it all unfold from his living room, a bittersweet smile tugging at his lips. Justice wasn't just within reach, it was inevitable. Marcus sat beside Walter, watching footage of his father speaking to reporters. Walter's quiet resolve struck him deeply. This wasn't the same man who had quietly endured prejudice for years. This was someone stronger, braver. Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes as he turned to his father. "I'm sorry I doubted you, Dad," he admitted. Walter placed a hand on his son's shoulder, his touch firm and reassuring. "You were scared. That's okay. What matters is we're here now." Claire's breakdown came during a live interview. Confronted with undeniable evidence of her past and present crimes, she collapsed into sobs. Her carefully constructed image shattered. The inn's reputation plummeted as guests canceled reservations, and employees distanced themselves from her. Alone and humiliated, she realized too late that her actions had consequences far beyond her control. Talk shows dedicated entire segments to discussing systemic racism and privilege. Social media lit up with personal stories of discrimination, each one inspired by Walter's courage. He became more than a man seeking justice. He became a symbol of resilience. People shared their own experiences, sparking conversations that rippled across communities. The movement grew organically, fueled by the belief that change was possible. In the quiet aftermath, Walter allowed himself a rare moment of peace. Sitting in his living room, he picked up a framed photo of Evelyn and traced its edges gently. "We did it," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Though scars remained, he felt a sense of closure. His fight hadn't just restored his dignity, it had ignited something bigger, something lasting. And in that moment, he knew Evelyn would have been proud. Handcuffs clicked into place as Claire was led away, her face pale and drawn with shame. Fraud charges mounted alongside allegations of discriminatory practices, painting a damning picture of her actions. Inside the inn, managers scrambled to rebuild its tarnished reputation. Announcements of sweeping reforms echoed through meetings. Diversity, training programs, transparent policies, and oversight committees designed to ensure accountability. The once imposing building now stood humbled, forced to confront the damage wrought by years of unchecked bias. On the porch, Walter sat quietly with Marcus, the tension between them finally easing. "I was scared," Marcus admitted, his voice heavy with regret. Walter listened without interrupting, nodding slowly. Placing a hand on his son's shoulder, he said, "Fear doesn't mean we stop fighting. It means we fight smarter." Marcus looked at him, seeing not just his father but a man who had endured lifetimes of injustice yet never let it break him. In that moment, their bond deepened, forged in understanding and mutual respect. Years later, Walter stepped back into the inn, barely recognizing the space. Gone was the cold indifference. Instead, warmth radiated from every corner. Staff members greeted him with genuine smiles, their diversity reflecting a new era of inclusivity. Walter felt a quiet pride swelling within him. This transformation wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and he knew his courage had played a part in sparking it. As he lingered near the entrance, a young black family walked in, laughter spilling freely between them. Walter watched as they checked in, their ease and belonging starkly different from his own experience years ago. His heart swelled, tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. This moment, a simple act of acceptance, reminded him why he had refused to stay silent. It wasn't just for himself, it was for families like this one, for generations to come. Back home, Walter sifted through old photographs, pausing at one of Evelyn smiling beside him. Her presence felt palpable, alive in the victories they'd won together. He whispered softly, "We made a difference, didn't we?" Her memory lingered in every small triumph, a reminder that even after her passing, she remained a guiding force in his life. Marcus found purpose in advocacy, joining a local group dedicated to combating racial injustice. At a meeting, he shared Walter's story, urging others to speak out against prejudice. For the first time, he understood what his father had tried to teach him, that standing firm, even when it's hard, can create ripples of change far beyond what anyone might imagine. The inn became more than just a place to stay. It became a symbol of progress. Workshops on racial equity and inclusion drew locals eager to learn and grow. Conversations that were once whispered in shadows now took center stage, proving that courage could ignite action and inspire entire communities. The screen faded to black as a narrator reflected. Change begins when ordinary people refuse to accept silence. Archival footage played, protests, interviews, speeches, all sparked by Walter's bravery. A final message appeared: "Speak truth to power, your voice matters." Audiences were left inspired, moved, and reminded of their own potential to challenge systems of oppression. In the final scene, the camera panned across the bustling inn. Guests of all backgrounds mingled freely, laughter filling the air. Outside, protesters marched peacefully, carrying signs demanding equality. Walter's fight had become part of something larger, a movement toward lasting justice. His legacy lived on, woven into the fabric of a community determined to heal and grow. Years later, visitors paused before a plaque near the inn's entrance. It commemorated Walter's role in sparking change, ensuring his name would forever be synonymous with dignity and resilience. As strangers read the inscription, they were reminded that even the smallest acts of defiance could reshape the world. One voice, one step, one courageous decision at a time. If Walter's story resonated with you, it's because moments like his remind us of the quiet courage it takes to stand up for what's right. Imagine how many others are out there fighting their own battles for justice and dignity. By sharing this video, you're not just spreading awareness, you're standing with them. Your voice matters. Let us know in the comments what part touched your heart or inspired you to act. If you believe in stories that spark change, hit like and subscribe to join our community. Together, we can keep these conversations alive and turn empathy into action.